Hey, I'm your storyteller. I'd love to know where you're watching from. You can tell me in the comments section. When you are ready, lean back, and let's dive into this week's horror stories. I take Baxter for a walk every evening just before dark. He's a restless golden retriever full of energy, and if I skip even one walk, he paces around the apartment like a caged animal. The trail behind my complex is usually peaceful at this hour, just the occasional jogger or someone walking their own dog. This one night, however, the woods felt different. Everything seemed quieter than usual. All I could really hear was the crunch of my boots on the dirt path and the light rustling of Baxter's paws through fallen leaves. Suddenly, I heard something. A second set of footsteps. I slowed down. They stopped. I glanced over my shoulder, but the path behind me was empty. Maybe I imagined it. Shaking it off, I kept walking, but Baxter's ears were up now. His body was tense. He felt it too. His tail was normally wagging, but now it was stiff. The fur along his back was bristling. He glanced back every few steps, eyes locked on something I couldn't see. I told myself it's nothing. I've taken this path 100 times without anything happening. Then I heard it again. But this time, it was unmistakable. It was the sound of footsteps crunching leaves, not behind me but off to the side in the trees. Whoever it is, they're not on the trail. They're in the woods, walking parallel to me. I stopped, and so did they. A silence stretches between me and whatever's out there. I scan the trees, searching for movement, for any sign of a person or an animal. But I couldn't see anything unusual. I swallowed hard and started walking again, faster now. Baxter whines. I could tell he didn't want to be there anymore. Neither did I. Then a sharp rustling to my left caught my attention. It was not the wind. Not a deer. I turned my head, dread curling in my stomach. That's when I saw it. A man, half hidden behind a tree, standing completely still, just watching me. I can't see a face, just the faint outline of a tall person. My chest tightened, my fingers tightened around Baxter's leash. Then they took a step forward. I began to run. Baxter lunges forward as if he's been waiting for me to break into a sprint. His paws kick up dirt. My heart slams against my ribs as I tear down the path, boots pounding against the ground. I hear the footsteps behind me. Fast, heavy, and closing in. My apartment was just past the clearing, just past the small bridge at the end of the trail. I remember thinking, if I can make it there, if I can just get past the bridge, I'm safe. Then a low, sharp whistle cuts through the air. I almost trip. My stomach twisted and I felt like I had to throw up. Baxter let out a sharp bark, and he nearly pulled me off balance as he dragged me forward. The bridge is ahead. The parking lot was just beyond it. I was almost there. I pushed myself harder, lungs burning and my vision tunneling as I burst into the clearing. A few cars were parked near the edge of the lot. The second my feet hit pavement, I risk a glance back. The man is gone. I stand there, gasping for air, my legs trembling. My ears strain for any sound, any sign that someone is still back there. But there's nothing, just the woods, dark and empty. I fumble for my keys with shaking hands, practically dragging Baxter to my apartment door. The second we're inside, I lock the door, double-checking it twice. I tried to calm myself down. My phone buzzes in my pocket. I nearly drop it. With a deep breath, I pull it out. A new text from an unknown number. "You run fast, Mia." I dropped the phone in shock. I stared at the screen as it laid on the ground. I was trying to process what was happening. How did they get my number? Who was watching me? And then it hits me. If they knew my name, if they were able to text me, then they had to have been close to me at some point in my life. I picked up the phone. My fingers were shaking as I blocked the number, but the chilling thought still lingers. Who had been following me that night? I don't know. All I for sure know is that for the first time in my life, the quiet woods I'd always walked through and felt safe in no longer felt safe. The apartment no longer felt safe. The walls that had protected me now felt suffocating, and I couldn't shake the feeling that whoever it was, whoever had been following me, was still out there, watching, waiting for the next time I stepped out into the woods. My thoughts kept spinning, replaying every moment, every glance over my shoulder, every rustling sound. I thought about calling the police, but what could they do? There were no clear signs, no concrete evidence of anyone being there. No one would take me seriously. I felt alone, more isolated than ever. The apartment seemed so small. Baxter, sensing my unease, curled up beside me on the couch, his head resting on my lap. I stroked his fur absent-mindedly, trying to calm my nerves. But every noise in the night, every little creak or groan of the building made my stomach drop. I could still hear that high-pitched whistle echoing in my mind. I don't ever want to go back to those woods. It started innocently enough. The library had always been my sanctuary. I loved the quietness, the smell of books, the way time seemed to slow down when I walked in. I'd always go there to study, especially since I lived alone and didn't have many friends. It wasn't that I was antisocial, but I didn't fit in with the typical college crowd, and I found the company of books more comforting than the small talk of people. It was late on a Wednesday evening when I first noticed him. He was sitting at a table in the back corner of the library, a few rows over from where I usually sat. At first, I didn't think much of it. I had seen people come and go in the library all the time. He was just another student, buried in his work like everyone else. The next time I came to study, he was there. Same place, same table. He had a stack of books in front of him, but he wasn't reading any of them. He just sat there, staring at the table, occasionally glancing up at me. At first, I thought I was overreacting. Maybe I was just paranoid, or maybe he was looking at someone else. I tried to push the thought out of my mind. Still, every time I came back, he was there, always sitting at that same table, always staring. I would sit at my usual spot, trying to ignore him, but I couldn't help feeling uneasy. There was something creepy about his eyes, dark, unblinking, and cold. The next time I saw him, I decided to do something about it. I was tired of feeling uncomfortable every time I came in. I made my way to the front desk to ask about the guy, to see if anyone else had noticed him. "Excuse me," I asked the librarian, a woman in her 50s with glasses perched on the end of her nose. "Is that guy who's always sitting in the back a regular here?" I nodded toward the back of the library, where the man was sitting again, just as usual. The librarian looked at me for a second, her brow furrowing. "What guy?" she asked. I pointed again. "The one sitting at the back table, the one who always stares at people." She turned her gaze toward the back. Her eyes skimmed over the rows of bookshelves and tables, but she didn't seem to register anyone. She frowned and shook her head. "There's nobody there, dear," she said. I blinked. "What do you mean? He's right there, sitting at the table." I began to feel uneasy and frustrated. I knew what I was seeing. The librarian's voice softened. "No one's there. The library's been empty for a while. You might want to take a break, maybe get some fresh air." Was I imagining it? I glanced back at the table. There was no one there. The chair was empty. I felt a mix of embarrassment and dread. "Are you sure?" I asked, still scanning the room, but there was no trace of the man. The librarian smiled, though it was more of a polite gesture than comforting. "Yes, dear. No one's been sitting there for hours." I tried to brush it off, but the unease stayed with me. That night I went home early, my mind racing with thoughts. Had I imagined the whole thing? I didn't think I had, but the doubt crept in. I told myself I was tired, that I needed to rest. The next day I returned to the library. I was determined to shake off the weirdness from the night before. I sat at my usual spot trying to focus on my work, but after a few minutes, I saw him again. The man. He was sitting at the same table in the back corner, staring at me. This time, though, there was something different. There was a smile on his face. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. His lips curled upward just enough to show a sliver of teeth. I froze, feeling a chill run through me. For a split second, I thought I saw his head move slightly, as if he was tilting it in curiosity. My breath caught in my throat. I knew he was watching me. I quickly packed up my things and left, not even bothering to check out the books I had planned on reading. My hands shook as I made my way out of the library, but when I reached the door and looked back, there was no sign of him. For a few days, I avoided the library, trying to push the unsettling feeling out of my mind. Maybe he would stop coming there if he saw I wasn't there. But the next time I went, I saw him again. He was standing in the aisle between 2 rows of books, not far from where I usually sat. He was looking down at a book in his hands, but his head was slightly turned toward me. His eyes were locked on me, and I felt the blood drain from my face. I walked quickly toward the door, my heart hammering in my chest. But as I passed, I caught a glimpse of his reflection in the window. He wasn't holding a book anymore. His arms were crossed, and he was staring at me with a knowing smile. I was done. I wasn't going back to that library. I wasn't sure if it was just my mind playing tricks on me, but I wasn't willing to risk it. Over the next few weeks, I started missing the library, and I began telling myself I was being paranoid. It wasn't like I saw him every time I went to the library. Sometimes I would walk by that back corner and not see him at all, but other times I would glance over and catch him staring at me from the shadows. The whole situation was driving me crazy, and I couldn't explain why I couldn't stop thinking about it. One night, I had an assignment due the next day, so I forced myself to go back to the library. I needed a quiet place to work, and I knew it would be the best option. The library was mostly empty, but there was still a faint hum of activity in the background. I hadn't been there for a couple of weeks at that point, so it felt nice to be back. I sat down trying to focus, but the feeling of being watched came over me like a cloud of dread. I looked around, my eyes darting across the rows of bookshelves, half expecting to see him again. But he wasn't there. At least I didn't think he was. I took out my phone to check the time. When I looked at the screen, I saw him in the reflection. He was standing right behind me. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I couldn't. I just froze with panic. He was so close now that I could see his face clearly. There was that same smile. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just stared. I snapped. I grabbed my things and bolted, running out of the library as fast as I could without looking back. The next day I decided to go to the police. I knew I wasn't imagining it anymore. There was something wrong. When I walked into the station and started explaining what had happened, I was shocked to see the officer's face shift. "You're not the first one to report him," the officer said. I stared at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "The man you're describing, he's been showing up at the library for years. We've received dozens of complaints, but he disappears every time we try to track him down. No one ever remembers him being there when they leave other than the people who claim to see him, and the library footage always seems to get corrupted when we try to look into it." I felt my blood run cold. It was then I realized I wasn't just being stalked, I was being haunted. I eventually gave up on going to the library altogether. It was just another Saturday night, nothing unusual. I had been out with some friends, grabbed a few drinks, nothing crazy. We weren't looking for anything wild, just a chill night at a bar to wind down from the week. Around midnight, I decided to call it a night and ordered a rideshare home. The app said my driver, a guy named Kyle, was 5 minutes away in a black sedan. I waited outside the bar, scrolling through my phone. The city was alive, the streets buzzing with activity, people milling about as the lights from the bars spilled out onto the sidewalks. I wasn't thinking about much, honestly. I was exhausted, ready to just get home, shower, and crash. Then, a black car pulled up right in front of me. I didn't think much of it at first. The car was a typical rideshare sedan, black, a little sleek looking, nothing extraordinary. The driver rolled down his window, looked at me and said, "For Emma?" That was my name. I took a step forward, my hand already reaching for the door handle, but something made me pause. My gut twisted. It was the way he said it. Too smooth, too rehearsed. I shook it off as paranoia, but I didn't reach for the handle just yet. I glanced down at my phone. The app buzzed, showing that Kyle was arriving now. I frowned and looked at the car again. There was something off. No company sticker on the windshield. No matching license plate. My real ride was still a block away. I had been in enough ride shares to know the drill. This wasn't my car. I took a step back, my heart hammering in my chest. My eyes darted between the strange man's calm expression and the car that didn't match any of the details in the app. "Sorry, I think I got the wrong car," I said. The man didn't say anything. He just stared at me for a second, with a blank expression. Then, before I could process what was happening, his hand shot out through the window. He reached for the door like he was trying to yank it open before I could step away. It all happened too fast for me to react any differently. I turned on my heel and started walking quickly toward the bar entrance, but I wasn't sure what was worse, the fact that this man was trying to grab me, or the fact that I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to trust. Just as I reached the door, my phone buzzed again. My real rideshare had arrived behind the black sedan. The car pulled up and I turned my head. The driver leaned out of the window. "Emma?" he asked. The fake driver's head snapped up immediately, his eyes locking with mine for a split second. His gaze was cold. It was like something clicked in his mind when he saw that I was about to get into the real car. His hand pulled back from the door, and he quickly shifted the car into drive, peeling out into the street, tires screeching as he sped off into the night. I watched him go. My hands were shaking as I climbed into my real driver's car. "What the hell was that about?" Kyle asked, his brow furrowing. "Some guy tried to, I don't know, kidnap me, I guess," I said, still barely able to process it. I was shaken, trying to hold it together, but the reality of what had just happened was sinking in fast. Kyle glanced in the rearview mirror, but the other car was long gone. He didn't seem to know what to say. "You okay?" he asked. He sounded concerned. I nodded, but I wasn't okay. That wasn't my ride. He wasn't supposed to be there. I don't know what the hell he wanted. It was stupid. I should have walked away faster, trusted my gut the second I saw something was wrong. But I didn't. I reported the incident to the app as soon as I got home. I gave them the make and model of the car, the color, the fact that there was no company sticker on the window. But all I got back was an automated message asking me to confirm the details. There was no follow-up, no real investigation. Weeks went by, and I tried to put it out of my mind. The whole thing felt like a nightmare. It was only when I was scrolling through local news one night that I saw something that made my blood run cold. Woman found unalived after entering wrong rideshare. I had to read the headline again to make sure I wasn't imagining it. My fingers trembled as I clicked the link. It was a news story about a woman who had been out at a bar alone just like me. She had gotten into a black sedan, thinking it was her ride. The details were chillingly familiar. Same age, same type of car, same situation. She was found hours later on the side of the highway. I'll spare you the details. The police were looking for the suspect. They had security footage, but it was grainy and blurry, a distant image of the black sedan. The license plates had been removed. I didn't even need to read the rest. I knew exactly what had happened to her. The same thing that almost happened to me. I don't know what would have happened if I had gotten into that car. I don't let myself think about it. I don't want to. But I know that man was looking for someone. And that night, I was almost her. I still think about it. Every time I get into a car that isn't mine. Every time I see a black sedan on the road. There's a part of me that wonders if I was just lucky, if the fake driver got spooked when my real ride showed up. But there's another part of me that can't help but think that if I had gotten into that car, if I hadn't trusted my gut, I wouldn't be here right now. And it's the uncertainty that keeps me awake at night. That nagging feeling that there's a whole network of people out there, preying on people like me, looking for someone to disappear. Maybe I was just one of the lucky ones, but maybe next time I won't be. I try not to think about it too often, but I'll never be able to shake the feeling that one wrong turn, one moment of trusting the wrong person could be my last.